And joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line, I lie every time I say I enjoy talking to any other guest, but the one person I really mean it is NBC Sports Philadelphia's own Amy Fadool. What's up, Aim?
Hey, Mark, it's so good to see you. It's always good to get that intro. I feel like I think you undersell it. So just next time, if you could really, really bring it about how much you enjoy my presence on your show.
I felt like, yeah, you're right. I gotta go for the top notch with my compliments and introductions. That's really what I'm sorry I undersold you. Amy, we were lucky enough to see each other at Michael Barkan's golf outing, of course, this past Monday for the Michael Barkan Family Foundation. I saw you, I saw Leslie Goodell. There's a picture floating around there on the old internet for people. It was so much fun and obviously a great cause. What's it like for you, the great Amy Fadool, to get teamed up with some random bunch of strangers and go play golf for a while?
Honestly, it's a blast. Our group was really, they were good. So I was a little nervous, but then I actually played well, so that was okay. But it's actually a lot of fun. I'm always nervous that people are so disappointed, like, oh, look at our celebrity. oh, look who else is here. Steve Spagnola's here. Oh, who do you have? Amy Fadool. I'm like, ugh. But honestly, like they were great. They were big Sixers fans, and they were like, oh, they're asking all kinds of questions, and I always feel bad at these things. I played in the Mike Quick one earlier this summer, and our group was great there too, and they also were Sixers fans. Maybe they know what they're doing when they pair me, but I do kind of feel bad that when you see the other celebrities who are actual celebrities, and then it's like, cool, we get the chick that hosts Sixers pre and post. Great.
I show up, and the starter guy is looking at a list, I swear to you, and he goes, Mr. Farzetta, okay, great. You're with Seth Joyner and Ricky Pitalico. And I go, someone didn't pay money to, like, play with those guys? What are you talking about? So I'm like, I see Ricky, and I'm like, hey, man, apparently you and I are together. He's like, cool. And I see Seth. He's like, oh, great. It'll be fun, He's a cigar guy. I'm a cigar guy, Seth Joyner, And, it wasn't at all the case. I got paired up with four great guys that are from the same area that I am. They're Monco guys. I'm Bucks County guy. But we know a lot of the same people, whatever. But we did have a blast, and it was obviously for a great cause for the Barkan Family Foundation. Amy, I have been following you and Mark Jackson, another fellow Temple alum, Mark Jackson, with this great show, The Blueprint. You guys have some more installments coming up here, especially surrounding the NBA draft. What can you tell me and the audience, obviously, about Blueprint?
So Blueprint was the brainchild of our producer for Sixers pre and post, Brian Brennan, to kind of, umbrella our coverage for the off season, all the different things that they need to do, the blueprint, if you will, to make sure that they can get further than they have, let's face it, in over 2 decades, but certainly last year, after the frustration that everybody experienced, fans, front office, and obviously the team. So it was looking at 5 or 6 different things. What does the future look for Tobias Harris? Is he going to be part of that type of formula for success? Matisse Thybulle was another one. Obviously, James Harden's contract and different things, Danny Green. So we were looking at a lot of different things. And obviously, Mark Jackson has that insight now as an analyst, but as a former player, he really gives that kind of little extra kind of behind the scenes as far as a guy that's been part of a lot of off seasons and been a part of a lot of off-season trades and mid-season trades. So he kind of gives that unique perspective on that. So we just wrapped up the last blueprint on Monday as far as looking ahead. And then now we'll wait for the draft, obviously, and see who the Sixers take at 23, if they take someone at 23, if they don't package it and do something crazy, which we all know the Sixers could do. And then we'll look ahead at some of the prospects and some of the draftees that they take and see how they're going to fit into the blueprint for the Sixers' success. Because honestly, I was talking in the office today, and it's starting to feel like 2011, 2012 Phillies. And it gives me that bad vibe of like, like if we don't, we have a window, right? I mean, we all know we have the window. If the window isn't as open as it used to be, it feels like it might be closed. And I don't want it to close. This window, though, with Joel Embiid, it's not going to last forever. And it did kind of start to, like with these, I know we're going to talk about it, some of these names that are coming up. And I'm like, okay, that's a little grasping at straws. I feel like, they all want certain players, and we get that, but like, let's not overshoot just because you're trying to capitalize on one thing. Let's try to really build something sustainable. And that's where I got the 2012 Phillies vibes of that wasn't sustainable. They were just chasing lightning in a bottle after a while, and we all know what happened in the 10 years since.
Sure. And if you look back on that time, I know some people might be saying, well, at least they won a championship in 08. Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. But they were supposed to do more than just one championship. And even guys like Jimmy Rollins have come out in recent years and said, we should have at least won 2 in that whole run that we had. And now it feels like the Sixers, as you said, have that window closing and they might not have that championship. But in the effort of a blueprint, PJ Tucker's a name that's out there right now. The name that's attached to that, the number that's attached to that is a 3-year, $30 million deal, possibly for a 37-year-old PJ Tucker. I am looking at it as a rush situation where I'm going to look at that and hopefully it's going to be team options for years 2 and 3. Right. Probably not. He's probably going to get at least 2 guaranteed years out of that. When it comes to PJ Tucker, are you willing to go out there and spend that money for a guy that will be obviously an impact defensively and be that dog, if you will, on the defensive end of the court?
Yeah, PJ Tucker is the reason I had this conversation with one of our supervising producers today, because it felt a little desperate with that 3 years. You mentioned him, 37 years old. The end of the season came, and you heard numerous Sixers, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, Doc Rivers, we got to get that dog. Every team's got that dog. They've got that mentality player who just goes out there and does the little thing. PJ Tucker is that guy. He's that guy. We saw that. You've seen that for years. Kyle Lowry's that guy. Marcus Smart's that guy. Draymond Green's that guy. Every team has one. Every team that's a winning team has one. So the Sixers recognize we need that guy. We had that guy in Jimmy Butler. He's gone now. We need to try to get him back. That's where the chasing started. I was like, 3 years for a guy that's 37 that's going to give you almost nothing offensively in the playoffs. That's a dangerous kind of proposition. Do they need a guy like PJ Tucker? Absolutely. Would it be great if they got PJ Tucker for 1, maybe 2 years? Great. Also, if it's a team option, sign me up. But I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. There's no way PJ Tucker signs a deal that's not at least 2 years guaranteed. I mean, why would he? He has the market. He is in the catbird seat, and he knows teams want him. He has that mentality that teams want. Successful teams think that's going to take them to the next level. And that's what the Sixers know they need. They need a couple other things, but they know they have to have that guy that does the dirty work, the little things. Because let's face it, when the chips are down, someone that's doing the dirty work sometimes, as far as like, getting down there, rubbing elbows and chasing after loose balls, is sometimes Joel Embiid. And that is the number one player you do not want to be falling on the floor, chasing after balls, doing any of that stuff. So you need to have a guy that can do that for you. So, I mean, I like the idea of PJ Tucker. I don't love the 3 years, $30 million. You could give me 3 years, $10 million. It wouldn't matter. It's the 3-year deal of and I understand why he's looking for that. I think a 2-year deal is probably, 2 years, $18 million, I think is a fair deal for him. I think that's something you could work with. It gives you a little bit of room as well. And he gives you that guy. He's a veteran presence, which is great, but you have to think about what else you have on this team. You've got some scoring, but you can't have he's a zero sometimes on offense. Let's just face it. You look at the box score in the playoffs. He had some good games, but most of the games, he's not giving you much.
Sure. And a guy that I look at that doesn't really give you a lot. At least he will cut to the basket and get you some points that way. Matisse Thybulle, the 3 part of the 3 and D obviously hasn't come around just yet for him. And when it comes to that window, I know the Sixers are rather impatient, as a lot of people are. They don't want to wait for him to finally develop that part of his game. So the story that's out there is Matisse Thybulle's a big part of this trade, along with the 23rd overall pick, and they're shopping that around. They're saying right now the reports are that, they're not just going to do it for a salary dump, which is good because Thybulle's not making all that much money anyway. But what's real to you in terms of trading away a Thybulle and that 23rd overall pick? What could the Sixers possibly get in return that would be worth it?
Yeah, that's such an interesting scenario because you had the report that came out the other day about Matisse Thybulle's in the gym and he's really working on his game. And I'm like, I'm sure he is. So is Ben Simmons.
Right.
So it's like, if you haven't developed it by now, are you going to be that guy? And there's a lot of people, obviously, that do covet Matisse Thybulle's defense. I think his stock dropped. Mark Jackson actually talked about this quite a bit on our Matisse Thybulle Blueprint edition. His stock dropped quite a bit. Not really necessarily with the vaccination stuff, but you saw him in the playoffs. He was exposed against the Heat. He just didn't play as well. And then obviously he was out of his rhythm for the Raptors series because he wasn't playing the games in Toronto. So the playoffs, that's where you make your money. That's where you can really, get that extra, whatever it is, in this case, maybe $10 million. I think he cost himself quite a bit. And he cost himself a lot of, people used to defend him, I think, in Philadelphia. Oh, you don't understand. He's like, the first-rate defender. And it's like, well, that's not enough. Like, you need to give us more because we're not seeing it. So in terms of what you can get, the 23rd overall pick, I think there's a lot of value in the back half of this draft, more than maybe people think. It's a pretty deep draft. I look at the top couple guys. I'm like, yeah, there's some super talented guys. But then you go through and there's some really, really good players who could help teams, I think, almost right away. So I think trading it, it just depends on who you think that you might be, marketing to. It's going to be, you're going to be marketing the 23rd pick and then throwing in Matisse Thybulle as well. Right. Maybe a year ago, that wouldn't have been the case. So I'm not exactly sure what they could get with that package, but I would think they should be able to get, if they want to move up in the draft, they certainly should be able to get into the teens. I would think with that easily, if that's something they're interested in. As far as an actual player, I don't know. I would have to look at the salaries to see what might be comparable as far as if it is a salary, if it's not a salary dump, if it is like, something that they're thinking about.
Right. Yeah, would Eric Gordon be a guy you'd be interested in?
Yeah. You had mentioned his name and I had forgotten that had come up. Yes and no. I don't know that he gives me exactly what the Sixers need. Let's face it, the Sixers need that junkyard dog type of mentality player, right? They also need, and I feel like I'm just a broken record, they need a 3-and-D guy.
Sure.
Here we are. They need a guy that can knock down that three. I feel like you and I talk about this. It's like Flyers need a goalie, the Eagles need a linebacker. Guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what the Sixers need? So
are the Phillies going to get a bullpen? Is that one of the other perennial problems?
The closer. So it's kind of the same thing here over and over again in Philadelphia. But they have to find that wing three. I think player. It's just you saw that so much. Bench depth is important, but Eric Gordon would solve some of the problems. I would have to look a little bit more at him just to see, because I feel like his fit sometimes on teams, it makes his season not as good as it could be, because I think he is a pretty talented player. But then you look at some of if you go through his stats and you're thinking, oh, that was he injured? What's going on there? Maybe sometimes they didn't utilize him correctly, or maybe just the fit on that team wasn't right. So I would be interested to see how the Sixers would want to utilize him if it's just going to be free reign. Like, listen, you spot up and you get the green light and you go, and we know he's a pretty good defender. So I think that would be a good trade-off. But I'm a little bit trepidatious because I think some of his offensive game is falling off just a bit.
All right. A lot of people want the Sixers to potentially go star hunting again. It's a phrase coined by our own Brett Brown, right? Our old friend.
Guy.
Yeah. Oh, I miss the voice. Boy, do I miss the voice.
Right?
Star hunting. Jaw. All right. Anyway, when it comes to potentially adding a Bradley Beal, maybe, possibly, somehow, do you think the Sixers are going to be that aggressive this offseason, or do you think they'll continue to depend on James Harden being a lot better than he was last year with a better hamstring, still a little older, and Tyrese Maxey taking a step forward? Do you think they're essentially just going to be looking for those dogs and those glue guys supporting cast members, or do you think they're going to be extra aggressive and maybe go after a Bradley Beal?
I think they're going to be aggressive. I think seeing who else is in the market for Bradley Beal, when you hear the Celtics might be interested out there, that certainly would make you, I think, more aggressive if I was the Sixers. But yeah, Daryl Morey has been known to be, listen, he wants James Harden. He got James Harden. If he wants a guy, he's going to do everything he can. But you mentioned the scenario, can they bring in Bradley Beal with having everybody else? Salary-wise, no. Like, that would just be a massive, massive undertaking. They would be way over. Like, it would just be crazy. But they love James Harden. Doc Rivers loves James Harden. They believe that the hamstring and only 21 regular season games was probably one of the reasons that, everything kind of wheels fell off at the end. I hope that's the case. I don't know that to be true, but certainly there's probably some stock in that idea Morey loves James Harden. So is he going to shop around for a Bradley Beal, a giant star, at the expense of one of his favorite players? No. Right. But I think that they really, really do covet Bradley Beal. And why not? I mean, when you think about offensive output, he is absolutely a quintessential player who could fit right in and help this team tomorrow. He is a walking bucket. He's a walking bucket. That's what he does. And I don't think that his style of play would inhibit Tyrese Maxey's growth. Obviously, it would change James Harden once again. He would really become much more of a facilitator. And so that would be something that they would have to, I would think, agree with him on if they were able to bring in all the, I mean, these are massive contracts that we're talking about too. I mean, Beal is a max player and Joel Embiid's a max player. We already know $47 million is going to James Harden. So Tobias Harris is a max player. This is a ton of money.
That's a lot of money they're throwing around.
Yeah, Harris would probably have to be on the move, I would think, in this scenario just to make it work. But even then, it would still be over. But I don't think Bradley Beal going into the fold would mess up Maxey. It would be interesting to see him with James Harden because, I mean, you don't want to mess up Maxey. That was the biggest revelation of this entire last season was, oh, Ben Simmons isn't here? Who cares? Look at this guy.
Right.
We would never have known that guy had in it. But I mean, Bradley Beal is a guy that is a lot of people are going to covet. And up until maybe 2 weeks ago, everybody thought he was going to be still with the Wizards. But now it's like, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
You know what? Let's talk about that 23rd pick and just one name in particular. And I doubt he'll be there. He might be a lottery guy. He might be just outside the lottery guy. And it's just a name that I'm bringing up for two reasons. One, because I know you love him. Two, because it's just fun to say Ty Washington. What can you tell me about Kentucky's point guard, Ty Washington? Ty
Washington. Well, he's actually a junior. His name is Tyler Jr., and he thought that sounded like an 8-year-old kid. So he went with Ty.
Ty to sound older.
Yep. Yeah. So that was the reasoning behind that, which I love. And of course, he said it with a straight face. I wasn't there at the media day when he said that, but I would imagine people were like, what?
Wait a minute. Okay. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Tyler Jr.
Yes.
That's too juvenile. Ty the man.
Amy, you're a professional media person. You go to press conferences. You're obviously you're in the mix. You got one-on-one interviews, and you are such a Wildcat fan that you will actually watch Kentucky Media Day. Is this correct?
Yes.
God bless.
Can't deny it. Can't deny it. It's quite the to-do.
Yeah.
Quite the to-do.
Oh, God bless you.
There's not a whole lot going on there. Bourbon, basketball, some horse racing, a little bit of football. And did I mention basketball?
Little bourbon? Little bourbon?
Little bourbon. You know about bourbon.
I will, a thing or two. Amy, we haven't done. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I like Ty.
Okay. Actual basketball. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
He's got the speed. He is a good combo guard. I think it was funny. I was talking to Paul Hudrick recently, who I know you've had on, and he had texted me. He's like, "Do you think his ceiling is Rod Strickland?" And I was like, "Whoa." Rod Strickland to me does not get the flowers that he deserves. I think you look back now and realize how good Rod Strickland was, but at the time, man never made an All-Star game. That's criminal. That's ridiculous. He was a very good point guard. I was thinking more like a Andre Miller with more speed.
Okay.
Reggie Jackson, good players. But when he said Rod Strickland, I was like, wow, that would be something.
That's a high praise.
Really good. Yeah, he's got really good speed. Obviously, I think that would help the Sixers because we know how they are in pace, which is like dead last almost. And he's a good 3-point shooter. I think he can get better. His problem is a little bit on the defensive end. His footwork isn't quite there yet, but it's hard, and he makes some of the mistakes. He's sometimes prone to turnovers, but it's hard to look at like a 19-year-old kid and say, oh, not everybody's LeBron James coming out that was, already a full-blown NBA player by the time they were 18. So I don't think he'll be there at 23. I think he's probably a late teens, 17, 18, 19, somewhere in there. Maybe even back half of the lottery because he does have a lot of upside. People saw that. His first step is pretty impressive. He does have that quickness that he can get by some guys. So I'll be interested to see him at the next level. But if, I think that they have to go looking for, I think that's why they're shopping the 23 round because there's no one that they're looking like, I've got to have that guy. If somebody falls in their lap like Tyrese Maxey did a couple of years ago, obviously they snatch him up.
Right. Another Kentucky guy.
That's so weird, isn't it?
Is that crazy? Is that?
There's a lot of them. I didn't know if you knew that. You only go to school for 1 year, so you barely learn their names. Fun fact.
Amy, we haven't done this in your handful of appearances on the show. We haven't done this, and I have to do this because I don't believe we get an opportunity to do this with too many of the ladies. So would you indulge us and take part in the Farzy 5 real quick with us?
Yeah, you know it.
All right, here we go. Let me just bring in the band. Guys, oh, wow.
Strong.
You guys, they get more aggressive. They're like Daryl Morey in the offseason. More aggressive. Best job before your TV job, Amy. Best job before you were ever in TV. And don't say that Baltimore station where you were up against Judge Judy or something, whatever it was.
Listen, that was awesome. So you loved WBFF, Best Friends Forever, Fox, down in Baltimore, your favorite television station. So before I even got into television, which is literally the only job I've ever had as a working professional, like out of college, but I worked in high school. I worked at an apothecary. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Google it. It's basically a pharmacy that's got the counter where you can go get cheesesteaks, and I would make limeades and milkshakes by hand, like old school, people sitting at the stools in the front. It was straight out of the 50s, and it was fun. And I would make fried bologna sandwiches for all the construction workers. That was their favorite thing. It is the most disgusting, yet apparently delicious thing to make. It was basically like a 2-inch thick cut of bologna. You just throw it in the deep fryer till it floated.
And you grew up south of the Mason-Dixon line, obviously.
I did, oddly enough. Yeah, that didn't give it away. Down there in Virginia.
Go-to fast food place.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell?
Taco Bell. Like Chick-fil-A, but I don't even consider that fast food because it's just so delicious. But Taco Bell. If I pass a Taco Bell,
muy bueno.
Over.
Muy bueno. Okay, you're happily married. I know your husband well, Sean. Great guy. But in your dating days, what was a first date deal breaker? Help the fellas out. What shouldn't they do on a first date? First date deal breaker.
Just table manners. Being polite is number one for me. So don't be rude to the server. Don't be rude to any like staff members. I've definitely been out there and they're like, oh, the service is terrible. I'm like, oh, you've clearly never waited tables. So.
That's great. Something tells me that was the uniform, though. Jorts and a little tank top there of the guys that would buy your fried bologna sandwiches.
They did with their construction boots on.
Right. Oh, there you go.
Favorite city? Mayonnaise on it, too.
Oh.
Delicious. Why wouldn't you? It's already deep fried.
Piece of lettuce and a Diet Coke. Anyway.
Yeah.
Favorite city to travel to?
Chicago. In the summer only, though.
Okay, good. Yeah, I got you. And then finally, Amy, I got to say this. You're the nicest person I ever met in my life that I'm not blood related to. What makes you beep your horn in traffic, though?
Ooh, beep my horn in traffic.
Yeah. What makes you really lay on that horn, Amy?
Slow drivers.
Oh!
Gotta get a move on. Let's
go. The old hustle up. All right.
Hey, hustle up there, guys. That says 35, so we want to go like, I don't know, 35 minimum, maybe 40.
That's Fast 5 right there. That's the Farzy 5 with the great Amy Fadool. Guys, you can, thank you. Till next time. Thank you, guys.
Great job, guys.
Great job. You love the blueprint? No. Zeke in the back, the drummer, love the blueprint. What more? You hear that? Okay. What more draft coverage do we have coming up, NBC Sports Philly, as far as the Sixers going here?
So obviously, on draft night will be. We can't break into programming as much fun as that would be for the Phillies game, especially as the way they've been playing the last couple of games. But all online, NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, and on Twitter, and on Facebook, and on our YouTube, we will be breaking in with any news as soon as the pick happens. Mark Jackson and I will be there to break it down. We've got lots of footage of all the potential players, obviously, and then trades. And then Friday we'll have live the press conference of hopefully the draft pick. And then going forward, I'll have hopefully a one-on-one sit-down with draft pick, and definitely either with Daryl Morey or Doc Rivers coming up on Friday and over the weekend.
Excellent. Make sure you're following Amy Fadool across all social media platforms and watching on NBC Sports Philadelphia, the My Teams app, NBCSportsPhiladelphia.com, and all that fine stuff. Amy, always great catching up with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Rothman Orthopaedics guest line.
Thank you.
Favorite guest. Everybody else is just not having it the way Amy Fadool is. Tell you that much. Oh, we're still on. Amy, thank you.